Hello, and welcome to Torch Fund Analysis with Bloomberg. My name is David Edelson, and as a past Torch Fund manager and current ambassador in the Masters Investment Learning Center, I will be walking through the second of two training videos that will help prepare you for your duties as a Torch Fund manager. Today's video will focus on economic analysis, tracking the portfolio in Bloomberg, and building the spreadsheet for the quarterly report. Before I begin, I would like to point out that this is meant to be an overview of some of the most commonly used functions and screens, yet there are numerous other advantages to Bloomberg's functionality that you will utilize. The first area we are going to explore is economic analysis, so let's begin by navigating to the EcoGo homepage by typing ECO Go. This is our economic calendar, and it highlights all economic event releases. You should recognize this page from one of the first Bloomberg training videos. The events in white are events that are being released today, and the events in amber are events that are to be released in the future. Across the top, we have the period, survey estimates, actual results, prior results, and any revisions made. Some of the economic events that you need to pay particular attention to are consumer confidence, consumer spending, manufacturing, jobs, unemployment, housing, interest rates, GNP, and GDP. This is not a comprehensive list, but just a suggestion of some of the more popular economic statistics that are tracked. For example, let's look at annualized quarter-over-quarter GDP numbers that were released on October 27th. Here, we can see the period was for the third quarter. The survey results were 2.5%. The actual results were 2.5%, and the prior was 1.3%. Also, I want to point out, by clicking on this icon right here, I can set alerts for this particular release. Also, I can set my alerts by going to this toolbar at the top and clicking on 3 alerts and managing my alerts. The next function related to economic data is our economic statistics page, or ECST. When I navigate here, I see a pop-up window where I can customize this page for a certain country. For now, I'm going to click on 24 United States. Now, I have a list of major economic statistics by category. Let's walk through one as an example. I'm going to look under the third heading, Economic Indicators, and click on 9, U.S. Confidence. Here, I can see a description of the measure, and I can also see some options at the bottom. Let's go ahead and click on number 1, Consumer Confidence. Again, I'm brought to a page with a description of the measure, and again, some options at the bottom. I'm going to click on number 1, University of Michigan. Here, under Consumer Attitudes, I can click on 3. I can see the current value of 60.9 and the previous value of 59.4. If I want to look at what these values have done months prior to the current and previous ones of October 31st and September 30th, I can look at my ticker right here, type this in, and I see University of Michigan survey. Click here, go to HP, and now I can see what these values have done monthly for the past 3 years. Also, I can change my date range up here to audit it as far back as I would like. The next function I want to discuss is graphing multiple securities, specifically graphing the S&P 500 index against certain commodities. For example, let's graph the S&P 500 index against WTI crude oil. By typing in G, go, I am directed to our Graph Templates screen. Next, I'm going to click on 33 for multiple security, and then 1 open chart. I can see that my chart is displayed, but now I need to edit it for the specific securities I want to look at. By clicking on 96 Edit, the first option is Securities and Data. Currently IBM is in here, so I'm going to click in here, and first I'm going to add the S&P 500, which is SPX index. Once that's in, I'm going to go up here to the upper right hand corner and click Add Security. I'm going to enter, I want to look for WTI crude oil, but I'm not really sure what the ticker is, so I'm going to type in oil. This allows my autocomplete function to offer some suggestions. I am going to use CLA commodity. Once this has been added, I can go down to the bottom and click Update. Notice here that my default date range is 1 year, but I can customize this in the upper left-hand corner. Also, notice that I am simply looking at prices for these two securities over the time period, but what I need to do is normalize the graph to make it easier to compare. By clicking on 96 Edit again, my second option is Normalization. Now, I can click here to normalize my data by a factor of 100, and I'm going to do it as of my start date. Once I've clicked that, I click Update, and now you can see that the starting date and the starting point of my graph for both securities is the same, and it's 100. This allows me to better compare prices for my two securities from that point. Note also that I can go back in and edit this to look at more than two securities on the same graph. Next, I'm going to show you how to track your portfolio in Bloomberg. By typing PRTU, go, we are taken to the Creating and Updating Portfolios page. On my toolbar on the top, I can see I can click on One, Create, and it brings up this pop-up. For purposes of this exercise, I'm going to type in Test for my portfolio name. Over here on the right, I'm going to click Enable History, and then I need to click the Include Cash checkbox, and come down here and click One, Save. Now I see a blank template where I can start entering the securities in my portfolio. So, let's do one as an example. Let's go to 6 for my first security, and let's say we purchased Apple. I'm going to start to type in Apple and let my autocomplete feature show me the drop down of the securities. Notice that once I click Apple, it automatically fills in the current market price. Next, let's enter the number of shares we purchased in position. Let's just say we bought 10 shares. Once I do that and hit enter, notice that my columns update again, and this time my market value column has updated with the correct value. Next, we need to enter our cost basis under the Cost PX column. Let's say we bought Apple at $200 per share. I enter 200. And again, notice that once I hit enter, my cost value is updated as well. Finally, notice that the date in the far right-hand corner is today's date. So it's using the date that you're actually entering the values into the portfolio. Notice that the percent change at the top is calculated based on the total market value of my securities compared to my original cost basis. One final important note here. I need to enter the daily closing cash balance from the Fidelity report in the amber cash cell at the top. You will need to get this number periodically from your advisor. Remember, when creating your portfolio, you need to enter cost basis information for each security as of close on September 30th, 2011, or the first day of your tenure. Next, we need to set up the portfolio to be shared. I'm going to save this portfolio, and I'm going to go back to my PRTU homepage, and you'll notice that at the very top I can click 3 Share. Here I can select my portfolio, and then at the bottom I'll be able to select certain recipients to add them to share the portfolio. Please be aware that the contacts must be Bloomberg users, and they must be added to your contact book. The final area we are going to discuss is building your quarterly spreadsheets. There are 3 main data pulls: pulling the risk-free rate, pulling the S&P 500 index return with dividends, and finding the S&P 500 index sector breakdown. Let's start with the last one, since we won't use the Excel API for this function. First, I'm going to type in SPXL1, which brings up the S&P 500 index GICS level 1 groups. Under option 1, let's click on GWGT, or group weightings. This brings up the 10 main S&P sectors and their respective weights for a certain time period. The key here is changing the date of this output. By clicking on Edit at the top and Change Date, I can change this to a specific date. For purposes of this exercise, let's change it to 9/30/2011, and I hit OK. This shows the weights of the sectors as of the start of your tenure. So, for your quarter 1 report, you will need to change the date to the closing date for the quarter, which will be December 31st, 2011. Next, let's look at pulling the other 2 key data inputs for your quarterly report using Microsoft Excel's API function. Let's open up Excel, click the Bloomberg tab at the top, click Real-Time Historical, and then click Historical End of Day. First, we're going to do the risk-free rate. I'm going to enter USGB 090D index. This is my 90-day US Treasury bill price. Once I have that entered, I'm going to hit Next. I want to pull the last price, so I'm going to search here for price. And as you can see, the field for last price is PX last. I'm going to add that, and I'm going to hit Next. Here, I can change my time series for the quarter I'm looking for. So I'm going to enter July 1st, and I'm going to take it to September 30th. and hit Next. Now I can hit Finish, and as you can see, my numbers are beginning to populate in the Excel spreadsheet. One thing to be aware of is the Bloomberg formulas in the cells. In order to move this data to your spreadsheet, you need to copy and paste the dates and numbers as values so that the formulas do not ref out on a non-Bloomberg computer. Finally, let's pull the S&P return with dividends. We're going to go back up and do the same thing we did for the risk-free rate, except this time our ticker is going to be the S&P 500 index, which is SPX index, and the field that I'm looking for is the total return of the index net dividends. So if I type in TOT RET index, I see this first value here is total return index net dividends. I'm going to add this, hit Next, and then I'm going to change my dates again. July 1st to 9/30, and hit Finish. Again, my dates populate. The key on this function is that your start date must always be the start of your tenure, because this will provide consistent results each time you create your quarterly spreadsheet. A word of caution here: you must, every time you're updating your spreadsheet, you must pull the data with the same start date. Also, as a final note of caution, please remember that when moving data from this sheet to a non-Bloomberg computer, you need to copy and paste the values so that the formulas do not ref out when you try to open it on another computer. This is the final function that you need for updating your quarterly reports, and this concludes the second of the 2 Bloomberg training videos.